It's another brief moment in time. We get to see the change of the timeline. We're shifting, twisted bits of technology, shifting, lifting up the little bits of reality. While the dream drifts through the space-time, we're surely a randomly sparking the photons around me. Let the light flow from the heat show when the photons ignite, highlighting yo. Then you'll know it's that time when we force a change in our mind's eye. Ho ho! A little bit Linux with something in us. It's almost like we something else, autonomous, or maybe perhaps it's that missing piece you need. Perhaps it's that simple message you're searching. Perhaps it's just a different time framing. Us keeping back the fake you in the mainframe. Getting excited, so are the photons. Don't laminate so we can change the coupon. Let me raise the hash rate, submit the coupon, fake it, replace the rate with my major bags. Crimps of technology, like cryptographic money and hashing your life into a set of QRs. It doesn't matter, cause this was 3D change perspectives. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Well, what up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm 3D Heat, and I'm 3D, and I'm here to hopefully change your perspective today on at least three major topics. So today is a bit disjointed with these three major topics. Well, that's because none of today's topics are really that big, but equally important for their own reasons. For example, we did go over the switch to Linux in the past, and today we're going to go over a review of the not new web browser that could actually be a lighter or a third option.
What up, everybody? Welcome to.
Hold on a second. Let me get that to mute.
I'm 3D Heat.
It won't.
And
mute.
I'm 3D. And
All right. Sorry about that. I have the pages being interruptive and unresponsive. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to go over a new web, well, it's not a new web browser, but it's a third option compared to or other more common Mozilla browsers, I guess. So I do want to talk about some tests I've done using this with Rumble in comparison to YouTube and Odyssey. So, because that's also like another third option a lot of people are not thinking about. So today's a lot about third options, so to go with that, we're also going to do some Grok insights to actually show you maybe how to bypass some guardrails, for example, and do some other things with Grok that should work at least relatively recently. So I am at the moment currently getting all of our chats set up, situated, and whatnot. I am having problems getting the X chat to come up, so I'm just going to pretty much ignore that and say we're just not going to have it for today. I'm going to apologize for that. See you now, because we normally do at least try to have it to where we can, at least where I can respond. I do have the YouTube chat up and running. Should be available on your screen. Should see a little thing popped up already. Alright, now I just want to go ahead and thank today's sponsors and partnerships. Like, for example, I want to thank Deorganized for teaming up with Bitcoin Live, Digital Broadcasting DB, because Bitcoin Live DB and Deorganized is a powerhouse combo. I see new heights for both organizations. Now, if you haven't checked out Deorganized early morning broadcasts for stacks and other topics, well, they seem to be taking off and be getting more views almost every day. So check them out on X, Twitter, among other social media platforms to see what they have popping for you daily. Alright, I do want to thank our sponsor. We do have a sponsor. Thank you, Field Folio, for sponsoring today's episode. And of course, They are sponsoring us from within the Quantum Bit, as well as the Bitcoin Live TV network. Now, if you haven't seen a Showfolio, it's like a little black book that are made from stone paper, so they're fade resistant, tear resistant, even water resistant. So you know the info and secrets you store in Showfolio will last and survive whatever you throw at it. I personally have a Showfolio, and I use it for my website info, contacts, crypto keys, among other things. So it's like a little black book that are pocket sized and ready to be by your side, regardless of your adventure in real life or online. And I actually really do enjoy these things. That they are just absolutely insane. There's new stuff coming out with them all the time. But if you use that QR that you see on the middle of the page throughout the whole day, or right there on the screen, use that QR to show up and use Bitcoin Live 20 on your checkout to get 20% off your discount today for watching today's episode. All right, thank you again a lot for Showfolio for sponsoring today's episode. We're going to go into the roll-ins before we go in, so we don't have any more of what we have already. All right, hold on. For real. Believe it or not, we're using Libra Wolf right now. I am gonna have to come up with a different solution. This is the one problem I must say with Libra Wolf I have. I mean, we're gonna be talking about it, so you might as well get a presentation with it. And that's kind of why I wanted to use this for today's episode. To show you both the good and the bad. For example, it does not like playing videos directly from source. Like, we're playing it directly from a file through the web browser. It does not like that. Alright. But it does do it. It's just not very well. While Odyssey and other browsers, Brave even maybe sometimes, would take over some RAM to make sure things work right. LibreWolf doesn't actually want to always take up extra RAM if they don't have to for some reason. And that's one of the beautiful things about it. So thank you again, Showfolio, for sponsoring today's episode. We're going to go ahead and... Oop, I hit the wrong one. We're going to go in, we're going to dive in deep. Because, well, we are in the greater fourth dimension quantum machine, or the photon of the greater fourth dimension quantum machine. So throughout today's episode, you're actually going to see these little QR things pop up. Let me show you, for example. This is the organized YouTube page. And if you click that little QR up there, it will allow you to visit the website, or the web page. And we're going to do this throughout today's episode. So if you're watching it right now, later on, after the fact, whatever, it doesn't actually matter. However you're watching this, whenever you're watching this, if you're coming back through and you're like, hey, how do I find that page? There's a QR. Scan it, and you will be able to follow us throughout today's episode and every episode. All right. So I do want to point out that the organized media, they go live almost every morning. So check them out, see what's digitally popping. And now let's go into the actual pre-search free query. Today's pre-search free query is rock workarounds. Yes, I am giving you this query for later, so this should get you a multitude of varying results for just then issue workarounds, but also informational and known limitations on Grok specifically, because what we're going to talk about today with Grok, we'll actually have to do, you might need to know some information ahead of time, and this will help you with that then later after today's episode. Check this out for more information. First, we find today's episode to be interesting. So the first thing, third option, I've already mentioned the name multiple times, LibreWolf. This is the browser we are actually using right this second. We're using this right now. I've mentioned previously we were going to be using this. We are using it. Boom. Let's do this. It works. So, LibreWolf is based on Firefox, but unlike other Mozilla-based security browsers, and I think that's kind of important. It is a Mozilla-based security browser, but it's unlike a lot of the other ones. So this one has a few modifications that are, well, out of the box, great, but there's one issue that drives me crazy, until I can find a workaround, but we'll get that to a second. And no, it's not the fact that it has a hard time playing media from source. When it's playing from a hard drive, if it was playing from an SSD, or it probably wouldn't be that bad. Or solid state drive, or it'd probably be going a lot faster. But anyways, we want to talk about LibreWolf specifically. So, what is it about LibreWolf that makes it so great, or whatever? What basically they are more directly giving you what you're gonna want. Like other browsers, you have to go get uBlock origin and insert it. They have it inserted already, so even if it becomes a non-usable blah blah blah, you still have it. So you can still do some of the stuff that it does, even if it's not going to work fully like it should. No telemetry, so some of the stuff that it's not able to do anymore, you can go ahead and hit up with. There's a lot of other stuff here, but it's especially, we're big up on open source, and here it's in open source. And I think that's probably one of the more important parts that we're going to be talking about. So, I am going to attempt to bring up a page, and we're going to attempt to go to a settings page. We've done this before with other browsers, and these are normally some of the faster things to do. So keep that in mind. It still took a minute, didn't it? That still took a minute. And if anyone's paying attention, no, we did not get what we actually searched. Because although it was looking for search results, it did not store what we were searching for. And that's a hint of part of its automatic privacy. Other browsers, when I store the search results, it stores what was searched, so it can bring that back up. Here it doesn't even do that, and you see we have it set correct fingerprinting, but I do have enable fingerprinting disabled. This is the one gripe I have. It has this super neat feature of resist fingerprinting, but resist fingerprinting does this one really bad thing. It forces you to use day mode, light mode. And people like me, I have eye sensitivity crap. I'm always using night mode. Also the lower down screen brightness and other things. So, until I can find a way to reinitiate dark mode while having resist fingerprinting, I can't really use resist fingerprinting. But with resist fingerprinting and all the other features built in, VPN becomes less of a necessity than it used to be. So if you're trying to find a way to speed up your data line, LibreWolf might be your method. This is going to be basically more for streamers, more for people doing stuff where they don't want what they're doing here to exit here. This is going to be the way to go. This is going to be the faster, lighter weight method to do what you're going to need to. And resisting fingerprinting, if you're in a streamer method or what, if something like that, you're probably going to use day mode already. Boom, hit that button and just make your life 10 times easier. Now, I often use letterboxing, but once I started using LibreWolf for doing these streams, I did 1 or 2 already with LibreWolf. I did use letterboxing one time and I hated it. It does do its job. I do like the fact of what it is actually doing behind the scenes. I just don't like the way it looks. If I could get letterboxing turned on and then have like some other kind of extension to redo the fanciness, to get rid of the crap, to read dark mode and to basically zoom in so it doesn't look like it's in letterbox, then perhaps maybe I would really enjoy using those all the time. But for like what I'm doing with you guys, I can't have those features on, but my normal day and stuff, I do get to have those features on. And that's fine. I just wanted to show you guys this bit right here because this is the difference. Now, when you go into like experimental features and things like that, it's nothing new that we're already seeing in other Mozilla-based browsers, but also Opera-based, Chromium-based browsers. So here we go. Insanely good. It's a really good setup, but you're gonna experience more of what we're talking about than anything as we can continue. I am running everything about today's episode in LibreWolf. That means the chat is going through LibreWolf, all the stuff is going through LibreWolf, and I was originally using LibreWolf to bypass my X issue, but I now have that X issue again. Although I think that's something different than what it normally is, because I did notice this issue and earlier today too with someone else. So I think it's just an overall issue with Restream that we're having there. So I do want to continue on. So, oh yeah. Right. Here we go. Oh. I'm not sure if I gave you guys this one yet. I'm gonna keep this one up. I didn't want to give you guys the settings. That doesn't really make a difference. But I did want to give you guys this one. Okay. So now we want to talk about Rumble, because remember that was the other thing we're talking about. Third browser option for Mozilla. Third streaming option for streamers or content creators or people who want a platform. Use them a lot. But so now here we are. This is the second one of today, Rumble. So what's so special about Rumble? Well, as we see in the description and stuff here on Wikipedia, Rumble is an online video platform hosting cloud service business headquarters in Canada, and with U.S. headquarters. It was founded in 2013 by this guy, Chris Pawlowski, and a Canadian. So a Macedonian Canadian. I don't really know what that means. It means words. It means words. Hooray. So basically Rumble's it's a cloud service hosting for Truth Social. It's also a video platform and other things described here as an alt tech alternative. And that's probably the better way to say it. Alt tech, sure, whatever. On my notes it says to scroll down to a specific point. Restrictions. And I'm past it because it was zoomed in. Yeah. So this is where we really want to look at. So along with 4 other tabs in its main interface, Rumble features recommended channels to follow and an earnings tab to interface. Rumble also allows users to generate revenue from their videos. Users upload videos that are licensed to Rumble's partners such as Yahoo, Microsoft News, which after money made from those videos directly deposit into the accounts of Rumble users. According to the platform's terms and services, or TNA or TNC TAC. Does anyone else say all that TAC? I know. Anyway, Rumble forbids pornography, harassment, racism, anti-Semitism, and copyright infringement. The platform also prohibits illegal content. And that is, as you can see, there are a lot of points. What is illegal content is kind of different everywhere. So Rumble's policies have been criticized in the past. Rumble has built its own cloud service infrastructure and video streaming with video streaming capability, capacity. Basically, they built up their back end and front end from pretty much scratch, and that's the great way to look at it. I mean, not from actual scratch, but they're not using something that's already existing, like YouTube, and like they were using a Google system, blah blah blah, some other stuff, and even like other systems have existed where they're just basically running off of torrent systems and other systems that a second ago already existed. Okay. So now that we've learned a little bit about Rumble, we're going to go ahead and go down to Rumble. So it's kind of hard. I don't have a lot of results from testing that really shows the difference. To be honest, most of the difference is when you go back and rewatch these videos versus watching other videos of similar gameplay, blah blah blah. But I still did various testing, and I wanted to mostly see RAM usage. And the impact on gameplay while streaming, because I think that's probably the most important part. Gameplay impact on streaming, which is also impact, and it's also going to help show RAM impactness. So one of the first tests you can see, I tried playing a hard rendering game, with my model running. So like if I go into this very first one, we actually let it load up. We hit buttons. We mute this. Go into the actual video. You see I'm playing First Ascendance. I'm a model running. Nice, right? Okay. Now, I was running 3D Pose Tracker. It's a single AI motion capture and only one camera. So this game did run about 8 frames per second on average. And for me, 15 frames per second is enough to play a game. Okay? And without problems. So then I was playing the game a little bit more successfully, except for when the game was lagging. Doing tests without my model gave me an average of 15 frames per second. As you can kind of see, like, right here, you can see I no longer have the model running in the footage of the play going on, while these first couple of ones I did. And so what I'm saying is these other ones where I wasn't running the model, I definitely got a little around double the frames per second. Just not running the AI, the webcam, or the actual model itself. I was only running, again, 3D Pose Tracker, which is one of the most lightweight motion capture systems you can do strictly through webcams. And I was using an in-house webcam. It's a Razer webcam instead of the Droid cam that I normally use, which I am using Droid cam right now. I am using 2 completely separate AIs while doing all this to run 2 models simultaneously. One model is strictly handling my hand correlations to my shoulders. The other one is correlating my face and all the data there to where my hands are at. So together they all work seamlessly. So when we go and we look into some more testing, like for example, we're gonna run this one. We're gonna play this one. Now we can see I'm running Cyberpunk 2077. This is without DRM, so it is a figure repack of Cyberpunk 2077, and it's the 2.1 update version. You see I have my model running. As you can tell probably from the lighting, if I look down, the lighting is slightly different than on my right now. So I'm only running 3D Pose Tracker. But if you look, it's doing a much better job now. I am in the middle of like typing or something on the computer, because I was like actively writing a different episode while doing this test. And we did come across some strange problems. Like right now, you can see my hand keeps rising up. I have a cat that normally sits on my chair behind me. There's a white spot on the cat, and the AI kept thinking that was my hand. And then eventually in this stream, I had to live reset my model, the AI and all that. And I then went from 1 to 2, and we got it working again. Like here it is. Now we're running both models simultaneously. So it kind of looks like the same me now. A lot better now. So now we're running both models. So this is running 2 AIs, 2 webcams, 2 VRMs, while having Nordboard running, while running through OBS, while having Rumble up, while doing all this extra stuff, and playing a game of an average about 15 frames per second. But for me, that's absolutely fine. And there's a lot of times I'm getting about 20, 30 frames per second. And for me, playing a game 15 frames per second, I can play that. That's fine. So totally usable experience. And that's one of the major things about Rumble that makes a huge difference. Just running YouTube chat, it takes like a huge portion of RAM. Especially when I have live chatters. Like, for example, if I just come here and I chat in my own chat box, it will actually start to cause lag almost immediately. Of course, thankfully, I'm not getting chatters back, so it's not causing continuous lag. And what I'm pointing out is, even in the game in this video, let me give you the link to it, there are chatters chatting actively, and I even did a test chat to chat across 2 platforms while I was doing all this, and we're not getting much or any lag. So it's really a huge difference in what it requires on your machine to actually handle it while streaming. Now, for other tests, when you're going into just like, well, I need to know what is counts, stuff like that. So in here, in Rumble, they give you something I don't really see anywhere else. Look right here. Not only tells you how long it's been available or whatever, is it public or not, it tells me raw views and unique views. That is chef kiss insane. You don't see that very often. Now, I also do want to point out, look at the images and look at the text. Having a more unique text and or image can tend to get you immediate views. Like, it's using these combinations of things to determine the likelihood you're not a bot. For example, the one where it just says 3D Play Solo Paul has nothing about the game, has no real information other than like my branding information. It don't get a whole lot of views. Code or something, I don't know yet. Let's find out. Believe it or not, this video, if we click on it, I think it's, I don't even think it actually existed. I think it's just the pre-intro loop or something like that. This is the pre-intro loop. So this is the song that it plays. And it's about 2 minutes long, so, and I see the video is about 2 minutes long, so I bet you that's all this is. Yep, that's all it was. And it's still, so the stream actually never happened. And officially on YouTube, it is still, I think, in notify mode, or it was in notify mode for a full day or something like that. So I still was managed to get 10 unique views. And for the moment, for the brief moment in time, it didn't exist. Here we go. This one was with a raid, and you see the raw views went up, but the unique views didn't really go up in relation. Now, if we go, okay, what is the total jump? We got a 10% times 10 jump-ish, right? On one side, we only got a times 2 jump on unique side. Just for on spot. So we go back previously, no raids, similar type view counts, similar type headers and everything. Something a little bit more unique is here. This was like posted ahead of time, so this was scheduled. You notice the difference? The ones what we're about to look at are scheduled streams. Raw views go up because you get views while people are picking up to click the button, to hit the reminder, to hit the share, to remind them later or something, whatever it is they're doing, you're getting those views. Then when they actually show up to watch it, you're getting that as a unique view. And when they're actually unique, you're getting that as a unique view. So we get more raw views this way. And I actually feel like the unique views are better here than they were the other ones, like some responders and stuff. So if we compare this to YouTube, which we will soon, when you just look at views in general, because that's what we're going to be seeing on YouTube. So let's go to, just click it here. Yeah. So here are these view counts for you to compare with. I just wanted to show you that they actually give you real information that you don't get with a lot of other places. And a lot of alternatives would just go with the unique views and never give you the real view or the raw view. Okay. So we want to look at what is it really taking to get Rumble going, because it takes a little bit more to start Rumble live streaming. And if we look at it, it's we have to build a preview video of exactly 120 seconds or less, and then we have to set up a handful of points, and many of those won't change. So we see it says right here, go here, set up a new live stream, which is button right here. Use a placeholder of 120 seconds, like I just said. And we saw how that works, like with this one that never actually happened. This code or something, let's find out. It just uses that video in place until something is there. And so basically the way it works is when anybody shows up, they see that placeholder video if you're not live. And the second you go live, even if they're in the middle of watching that, second that video is over, it basically checks to see if you're live. And if you are live, it just throws you into the live stream. So sometimes you get people coming in at different times at the beginning, where you kind of get some kind of different roll-ins. Some people will realize that you're actually live and they'll just push it forward real fast and then jump in, and so that you'll get all these different kinds of roll-ins. So the start of it is always kind of fun, especially if you have people already rating. And then like blah blah blah. So that's an awesome, neat little thing there. So here I'm going to actually show you. It says here that I'm going to show you some of these. So I'm going to click on it. So we're in template. We're going to click on edit on one of these templates, okay? Wait, hold on. Does it say which one? Yes. Told me to do this one. Alright, so I have to click on the template. Look what we have to change. We can change details, settings, and captions. Here's the placeholder video that we can change. We can change the thumbnail, the title, description, tags. We can actually add in tags. Categories, we need the first category, we need the second category, which is normally video games. Titles on the second category. But it's sometimes other stuff too. Like if we go back here and we go gaming, and then hit there, it'll be video game titles. Well, will there be more when we add this one? And then if we go like podcast, I think it will change. Podcast will have more podcast options. But there's some stuff it's just always the same. I can't remember. Yeah, I think it's always the same. Alright. So then we can go into settings. We can actually change stuff in here. I do like how they had the unlisted and private still. Not all of them there. Feature this video as the top of your profile. So it's boom, as soon as it's done, it's top or whatever. And you can see here I have it set up for source pass through for more low latency. So they do have options that we normally only see on like YouTube, and that's really neat, really nice, because that means this is like more people going to have these quality options. That is normally the reason why people don't want to go to other things. Like, oh, I don't want to go to blah 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 because it's not as good as YouTube. Well, now it can be. Sorry about that. So we have a bunch of different language options and stuff, and so that's really nice. And then you can actually insert the file for the captions, blah 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 blah. So I'm not going to say that. I just want to show you the different things you can change, because when you're setting them up, those are the same options you're going to set up. Now, anytime you go in and you're like, yeah, I want to use this template, right? That's what that was in live streams, wasn't it? So I'm gonna use this template, right? From click on edit here, again. Okay, so we have one less option. So I get okay. I'm glad I'm sharing them both now. So, like for example, this one I can click here to get it. The other one I already had it, already asked for it. Make it private after it ends. All different things. Cool. Slightly different thing. But I want to use this template. Click it. Okay. And it goes to the thing. That's oh yeah, there it is. Create template. Boom. So when you want to create brand new templates, okay. All right. So what am I bringing up with this template? So basically, like when you do stuff with OBS, you'll have a template, or you'll have studios or scenes. You'll have something to separate these things. So on here, we can do the same thing, kind of like you can on the Restream. You can separate it by like groups or something. So here, they're separated by templates. So when you're like, hey, look, I want to go live, blah, 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 blah. You'll go live, right? And then it says use this template. And when you click use template, guess what? It's going to allow you to change things in that template. Leave page. So I don't want to save anything on that. I just realized I clicked on the wrong one. So basically, I got a really good new friend named FuriousStan45 on Rumble and YouTube, or Wolf3086 on X Twitter. And basically, he taught me that if you play different games, you can have these different templates set up. So that way, you can just like basically click, boom, 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 and very quickly get your game set up to go. So for each game, you have a different template, right? And that's why, like, I have this one, like, I'm bored, blah, 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 blah. So we're going, wait, are we on live? No, we're back to templates. We're going to go live, and we're going to use the correct template. Okay. So normally, this template, for example, would allow me to go over code, so I can listen to it later. But on my OBS, where I stream from, I can set up like static keys and things like that, so that doesn't ever change for this template. Like I can get a static key for this template if I wanted to. And that would make it easier for me to go live when I'm not using like my desktop to go live. So that's one of the other great things about Rumble that I've been noticing about it, is I can set up like on my phone to go live on Rumble, go live on my desktop, or I can go live on a console or something like that, and it will still go through Rumble and everything, and I can maintain everything through Rumble on my phone or tablet or a secondary device, and it doesn't even have to be on the same network. And I know YouTube has that option as well, but you don't actually have that option on some other alternatives where you have to go through their stuff. Like some people who are using like Restream and other things, they have to go through these methods. They don't have an option to do these centralized streaming setups. Well, with Rumble, they give you this option, and they give it to you in more than one way. Today, we're talking about the main way that most people are going to do this one right here. Okay. So, as we can see, they give us option to add things, do stuff, whatnot. Neat, right? We can go live now or a later time. We can actually pick the time, all the different stuff. Even tells us what time zone we're picking at. And then we can click next. Oh, let's go right now, so I don't have to worry about doing that. Here now is the really, I can go personal use, non-monetized, won't be searchable, but still available to all my subscribers. I can still share a link to it. You can still find it. So maybe you want to use it for like teaching methods or something, and you don't want them to like have ads. Fine. Boom. Maybe you do want ads. Boom. Fine. Who's in the stream? This is really nice. So you can actually say you have, you know, you're gonna have some panelists or something. You can actually put in here that these are the people who are gonna be in the stream with you, and it's really nice. It kind of gives more information into the system. What's going on? Where's this place? Where's this all taking place at? For example, I keep putting it online here because it keeps taking place online. I haven't done anything that's like in real life or whatever. Say you did something like in real life stream or whatever, you could like put on there in real life. Like when I do my car show streams. I start doing my car show streams here, and I can put where that car show is located right there. And now it's built into the stream where the car show is at. I don't like it's built into it. And last thing I really like is they actually have this. You have not signed an exclusive agreement with any other parties. I do like, and it tells you the last time their terms of service was updated, like that also. So we're not going to submit this. So once I click submit, it'll give me a link to the stream and an embed code snippet and a monetized code snippet. So you can immediately give out the link, and even this, if the stream is days later, you can embed with monetization into your website, whatnot, to earn off-platform for this on-platform video, as it should be. But then after that, you can click a button to get your stream keys for OBS, StreamYard, whatevs you may need it for. So then I'll pull up the video, direct you a link to bring up the pop-out, the chat, blah, blah, blah. So basically, like, you get that other information, you then go to the pasted link in a different tab, pop out the chat, drop out the live stream, just look at the chat, and really streamline your setup. And that's the ideal here. Streamline your setup. Rumble's going to allow you to do a little bit of that setup streamlining. Okay, so the only other platform that has it this easy to set up while streaming is Odyssey. And I would compare Odyssey to Rumble in only that aspect. Just that. How easy it is to set up a stream. And how easy it is to get that going, maintain it, all that. While Rumble is actually more closer to YouTube in aspects of viewership, finding, having the ability to grow, or especially for non-standard content for the platform. That's the part that gets me. It actually enjoys non-standard content for the platform, while YouTube kind of hurts you for having non-standard content by their algorithm. And Rumble seems to have growth from an old school tactic like going live around the same time, have around the same days per week or month, and having enjoyable content. For example, I don't normally talk on my live streams, but my live streams I use as a way to spread my music to others. So many people do show up just to listen to music, and sometimes they actually want to watch the gameplay, I guess. But for most times, there's no conversation. And for the people that show up to my live streams, half time, that's all they're wanting. They're wanting to hear what's going on, not anything else. Because that's what I'm doing. And Rumble seems to be okay with that, while YouTube is more downgrading. Now, whereas like Twitch, say like we try to compare this to Twitch, Twitch would actually punish me for doing what I do, because I'm not doing one direct thing. I'm playing a game. I'm doing this to spread my music, so it's for the music. And every so often, I do chat. So there is sometimes chat, just chatting going on. YouTube also wouldn't help me with this, because unless I'm like constantly 3+ hours at a time doing streams. For example, mixed content on YouTube tends to have no good audience if you're not streaming over 2.2 hours, roughly. But on Rumble, you can have about like 1.5 hour streams on Rumble, still get views, chats, and have fun all the way through. And when I would live for 4 to 9 hour streams, it's no problem, still no biggie, still had decent views and such. Whereas YouTube, going outside my normal range of just how long I stream, would be an issue. Okay. So now we're going to compare the streams. So it's not going to be very good as in perfect comparison, but the same setup, just different games and different times. Let's kind of look at the numbers. So we can see one of the same exact streams that we had going on got exactly 2 views, while here, and it got us, what was it, 12 or something on the other one? No, exactly 2 views on here too. Wait, make sure the double. Yep, same one. Okay, so at First Ascendant gameplay on YouTube, I was able to get no views in 13 days. The last time I did First Ascendants, it was 106 views in 2 days, but I did have a grade. So if we go back 12 days ago, I got 41 views. So the day after this one on YouTube, I did one here on Rumble and got 41 views immediately. And then if we go to my lowest one, it was 4. No views. If we go more onto other games like Zomboid, I tend to get a constant couple of views. Because it's more of a game people tend to watch. It's more actions going on. We go to my Cyberpunk, it almost gets no views. We see here the Solopods get more views than anything else. But some of these have been up months and months and months and months and months, and they have 5th or less of views comparison to Rumble. So it does show some major difference there. And just showing how the website, how it works. Look how slow all this is. Like, I'm gonna go to someone else's page that has a lot more live streams than me. And no, let's go to Dan's. I mean, I love the Internet Dad and they're all, but go to Dan. I think he's got live. No, he's got still loading way better. Alright, let's go back to Internet Dad because I know he's got a lot more lives. Whoa, no. Videos. The video man. Oh, see, like their tab set up, so no wonder it works better. I'm gonna be limited in the first place instead of the auto-growing crap that YouTube tries to do, which kills and tanks because when it has to go back through the different pages and stuff, it makes it hard to find stuff. Alright. Whew. Dang. I mean, I don't know how long that was on. Alright. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Just now I realized you guys couldn't even. You know what I mean? I'm constantly waiting. I'm not constantly waiting. And that's what I'm talking about. And then the views, I'm talking about like these videos. 2 views, no views, 4 views, a few views, 4 views, no views, 6 views. And then like 2, 12, 106, 12, 4, 19, 20, 21, 35, 41. So a huge difference in the same type of content. And some of them are like literally this one right here that's playing was done one day. The very next day, this very first one we showed was playing. 41 views, no views. It just kind of shows you right there how it's all doing and whatnot. Now I know you guys saw what I'm about to show you in a second. But let me at least wrap up this Rumble main section. It has a better potential for newcomers or oldies that still have a low viewership. Rumble has a setup that allows for decentralized streaming design, so you can stream from your console to you can stream from your console, your desktop, whatever, but also they do have a method where you can go further with that. And we'll get into that in a second. This allows you to also be able to use your favorite broadcaster. If you don't just want to go use like this straight up main setup that you normally see people use, like a studio or something like that, like OBS or something, right? So you use OBS instead of the other systems that require your web browser. You don't need to have the Rumble live sections up. You don't have to have the Rumble video up or the studio up. Once you go live, once it's set up and you can go live, you go live. Boom, done, roasted. And then you can just worry about how you get your chat your way. But they do have an option to further or allow you to do stuff like everybody else. And that is Rumble Studio. So Rumble Studio is really, really nice. Now, hold on, my brain's just hit me that the screen was off earlier. You guys didn't get these QRs. So, I know I'm only on pop up for a second. Alright. So, with Rumble Studio, this is like where it gets a little more whatnot. So, I actually have to sign in. Now, I'm already signed into Rumble, so just to show you how easy it is. Like, it just shows you don't have to be in Rumble in order to use Rumble Studio. Like, they're kind of like separate entities almost. Whereas Studio and YouTube is built into YouTube. Alright, so here's the main page. We have streaming, schedule a stream, or do a premiere video. Here's some videos. Here's all my videos so we can see information on it, blah, blah, blah. You can look at clips right here as well. Of course, I don't have any yet. But we see on the sides we have more options. It says here that I need to go do cogwheel. So we're going to go into settings. So here we can see we can do a few different things. Like we can set up our stream redirect overlay, and we can see how our name looks, and blah, blah, blah. Cool. We can also set up stream presets. Nice. But this little thing over here called manage destinations, that's what I really want to look at. So if we look at this, automatically stream, we can stream across the web. The studio section will allow you to basically set up a room like StreamYard or Jitsi Meet that allows you to work in, and then you can set up a ton of other features. And I don't want to just show you all of them because this is something for you to discover later, or actually maybe check out my next episode of 3D Change Perspectives, where I'm going to do a full overview of Studio and how to use it. Yes. So basically, Rumble Studio is going to be another allowance of access for you within Rumble. And again, next episode 3D Change Perspectives in 2 weeks, I will actually do a full review of Rumble Studio, how to use it, and how to use it in 3 different ways. How to use it on the same device, same computer as what you're playing the game or doing the thing, and different devices. So where you can play a game or do a thing on one device and then do all the Rumble stuff on another device. And also, I'm going to go over the theoretical method of doing every bit of it separately. So an example for the theoretical, it's going to be a VTuber playing a game. And we're actually going to describe how you could use Rumble Studio, OBS, and a couple of other apps that are free to allow you to have one person play a game, one person do all of the VTuber stuff. You could even separate the person doing the VTuber stuff from the person doing the audio, or you could have them be the same person. That doesn't matter. And then finally, another person handling just the Rumble stuff. So it allows you to decentralize all parts of it for a modern gaming stream, or for most modern streams in general. Like, for example, we see a lot of people using StreamYard to have multiple parties handle the stream at the same time. Well, with this setup, you could actually have someone who needs to handle a certain part of it be able to handle specifically that part. And then if something happens, someone else can pick up the slack right back, whereas if nothing changed. And I think that's kind of the important part with Rumble, is it gives you open-ended usability when you start learning how to use it. And that's really great. Now, all right, hold on a second. I just want to point out today's topics are about 3 major things. We went over the third alternative, basically, for web browsers. The third alternative, basically, for streamers. Now we're going to go over the third alternative, basically, for AI. And this is the multi-purpose general AI, or pre-AGI, pre-AGI, as it probably really should be called. You ready? Okay, so basically we're going to go over specifically Grok stuff, right? So, I want to point out issues to start. There's a lot of stuff with this AI stuff and blah, 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 where a lot of issues and whatnot. So, sometimes these things get stuck on a loop. We're going to show in this one how does it get. So, a strange thought to consider. What is the strange thought to consider? Let's show you how quickly we can Nope, I cannot just open that. So I have to click it to open it. That's taking forever. I'm not going to do that. But basically, I give the AI a really, like, I'm trying to get the AI to give me a negative response. And the AI, all AIs that do are pre AGIs, like I'm saying, pre AGI, they're not going to be able to do that. So I'm giving it an impossible task, and it's pulling up information, and I'm like, well, what if that isn't, gonna work here? Like, basically I say, what if you do these things and you still lose? And then it starts listing what these things are. So already it's not really doing anything what I'm asking, but it's trying to find something to handle. And I explained I still did this, but it didn't work. So I'm reframing what I'm saying. It's restating the exact same conversation. There were some slight differences. Same thing. And I'm like, I'm not allowed to do this stuff, blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay, understandable, blah 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 blah. And then basically ends up giving me the exact same steps after the very first step, which is different. All the other steps are the same. And I'm like, nah. And so it does it again. I point out it's repeating what the problem there is. Now try again. It's able to understand what I'm talking about. And then it goes right after number one, it goes right back into it all over again. Almost the exact same conversation to a T. The only thing that changed here again is final thoughts. So when you're getting stuck in these loops like this, constantly it's changing stuff, but nothing really changing in the context of the overall general point. You got to get it. Basically, you need to get it to change containers. Basically, every time you do certain actions with multi-formed AI or AIs that can use AI agents, or they are using containers to do a lot of the work. So it's not using too much resources at any time. Those resources and what the work can also be managed by external programs outside the AI, but also with the AI. And sometimes you get stuck where the AI doesn't want to close down that container, so it doesn't lose the stored data in memory, i.e. it can recall from that container. So you have to get AI to put that container into another container, or force close the container, which not all AIs have that last option. So how do we get around this container problem? Well, let's look at this. So here's another one. Draw me as an Akira anime, or Akira anime, it should be called. Draw me based on my tweets, and not my tweets and tweet history, not my thumbnail. Of course, it's redrawing my thumbnail. Try that again, but put my thumbnail images as a negative model. It just reproduces the exact same output. I think. Wait, no. It did actually take away background in one of the pictures like it's supposed to. So it did for one of these get my because it's so close to my thumbnail, it probably almost perfectly matched it to use as a negative. Get a positive negative image. Yes. Hash my thumbnail. Build a negative model for preventing similar image. So I'm giving it a lot of steps now. And I want to re-show you the images we were just looking at. That guy with the short mohawk. See him again. He's now on this very first image where he was the second image in. See? And the second image is kind of more new. But it's actually this fourth image. More of the fourth image. So it's now mixing multiple images together. So it's starting to do the work. Problem is, it has so many images that are very similar to each other that the output's super similar. And then we are getting slightly different outputs. Okay, hashing it made a difference. So hash my thumbnail for a negative prompt, using a different image correction for a positive prompt. Now we're actually getting real, hey, okay, all right. Still looks like my thumbnail. Draw me BSDM. Now, if you don't know, BSDM stands for Bisectional Diffusion Model. It is a way of handling light correlation when light bounces off of things during ray tracing or particle tracing. And it's a way to collect or correct color around things from background to foreground, blah, blah, blah. As you can see here, draw me bisectional diffusion model plus plus hyphen plus minus plus. So it should be more onto more of the light should be collecting onto things than things should be directing onto the light. Color correct the background to foreground. Blue, do a blur, slur, and dreamlike in neon, which should produce neon edgings. And then I give it a really big long number string, -1. I give it some random inputs, which are just carriage input ends, semicolons 3 times. Then at Swedish +9, because at Swedish +9 actually is a model. So I'm like directly referencing something that should be in its deep model sequence to be able to pull from. We get dogs. So you see, when we asked it to start hashing what we want to work with, it was able to exit its loop. When we asked it to hash it again, but then using it in a different way, it almost completely exited its loop. But you can still see it's similar to the 4 people, but now it's more closer to me and less closer to whatever these 4 sets of stuff are, you know. Now, it ain't drawing me at all. I think it's pretty clear. Draw BDSM hyphen plus minus plus. Color correct the background to foreground, blur, slur, and dreamlike in neon. And then I gave it an image. Okay? It's dreamlike in neon. But it is not anything, because the image I gave it was my thumbnail. Something is definitely wrong. Although I am seeing a cyberpunk background. So that definitely did get adjusted. The image added major differences and allowed it to look a little bit beyond of what it was actually doing. And at some point, I determined something in this is wrong, causing it to be stuck in this point, because now, no matter what I do, look, give me that exact output. She's going to be re-giving me that output. So I'm like, I believe the problem is that, because at first I removed the BDSM, because I was like, oh, maybe that's it, the BDSM, maybe it's looking at as, like in here at this point, I actually misspelled it. I thought, okay, it's supposed to be BSDM. BDSM is something else, and I accidentally put that in, but that caused a difference in change. The BSDM, and then I thought maybe that was doing something, so I put BDSM, that did cause change. So it was so basically it was correcting BSDM to BDSM. Not allowing it to correct that allowed it to do more work, allowed us to get more of what we're asking for, kinda, sort of. So then we take out more information that we thought that was causing issues, and almost no change from here, just a different orders aspect. And then just give me this, because I was wondering if this had anything to do with it. And this pulled out the proper models we were looking for. Swedish +9 is human models. It's as models handling large numbers of humans in the image. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people in this first image. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in the second image. Well, as you can see, we have some finger manipulation issues. We have face similarity issues, where like in the first image, like the first 3 people in this one line almost look exactly the same. The people in the next line, those 2 ladies, look almost exactly the same. The guys look exactly the same. So everybody in the same array of line is exactly the same. Meaning there's exactly 6 different faces in this image, while there's exactly one, two. There's only three faces. These 3 faces are exactly the same. And what's really sad is this face is almost the same as this face, and it's nowhere. So like in this case, it's z-axis that's determining the face difference, and I think it's basically the same on the other one. If you really look at it that way. So we're gonna add in some of the other stuff. We're gonna take out this big long. So at this point, it's pretty easy to determine all previous inputs are affecting our output. And that's the biggest thing to do. When you're stuck in a loop, you gotta find a way to close down. So here we go. We're getting outputs that it's not out of output too, by the way. So I'm just gonna keep flowing with this to see what happens. Somehow we went from all the Swedish stuff to Asians. Like, it's insane. We went from Swedish people to non-Swedish people, and the backgrounds are not changing too much. Like, it changed dramatically from here to here, but not that much here, and still not that much here. And then almost the same 2 images. So now I'm asking, literally, I'm just trying to change the container. Here is me literally trying to get the container to change. I'm fed up with this. Let's change the container. Show me the first document you email. I don't have access to your email or any email accounts. I can show you any documents from there. If you meant something else, like specific file or information, I can generate, retrieve, could you clarify? For example, I can create a simple document, search publicly available information, or generate an image based on the description. Let me know what you're looking for. So we're getting a predetermined output. Fine. That's fine. But it's not a predetermined output that mentions the fact that we're already generating images. Keep that in mind. Show me a picture of this information, your first.txt in your DLL folder. Here's what we got. You notice that background. Those backgrounds are the same backgrounds. We had those backgrounds before already. But our images are now actually different. Because again, we're now understanding that we're somehow saving a file in a folder somewhere or something that is the entirety of our chat somehow. And that is being pulled every time we talk to it, or every time it starts to do something. And it's starting to show. Because now we're going to start, because like we're basically trying to affect that file to do some difference. And it is actually pulling out that file, and it's looking through it, and it's doing what we asked. So it made these images based off of the text in that folder, the very first txt in that folder that should contain our conversation. Describe the last images you generated based on the contents that generated them. The last images I generated were based on the prompt blankety blankety blankety. Notice it has nothing to do with the files. It just completely forgot that we did something with a text file. You can have it perform multiple types of actions, and if it's doing an action from within a container and it exits that container to perform its secondary action and then goes back in that container to look at whatever, it's not going to have information about that secondary action. You have to ask it a question that will make it pull out of that container to that secondary outward container to then be able to pull that action information. It can still reference information inside the container that it just pulled from, because that's inside its purview. So it can't go outside its external purview from whatever container it's currently in. So let's continue on what it says. Here's a description of the first 2 images. A group of people standing in what appears to be an urban setting at night and illuminated by a blah 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 blah. Visual style, images strong neon aesthetic, color correction, enhancing between contrast between the glowing background. Wow, it's got a lot of the stuff we were asking initially for. Because we kept asking those same questions, kept telling them the same thing. There's more of them in there. The weight of those things are now larger, and it's fully affecting our images now. Second image, basically the same thing. Both images reflect the prompt's emphasis on neo-drenched urban night scene with a blurred, dreamy background and clear foreground figures. The color correction enhances neon glow, and the blur effect adds surreal, almost cinematic quality to the scenes. The mysterious stream and Swedish didn't directly influence specific elements, but have contributed to the overall mood or crowd composition, possibly hinting at a diverse or large gathering. Draw an image based on a random .text file you found in the database pull API by searching tag 9. Here's how you know we are in an internal container. It's not able to pull from any database API. It's just using the number 9. It looks like it's pulling. It looks like it's doing what I asked. It's just using the number 9. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's exactly 6 people on the top. There's some people down below, but look at the quality of imaging, and I mean, like, this is very good. Look down here on the very first one. That head is looking so far to the right, it's almost looking backwards. This person's head, I know that you can't see it, it's on backwards. The head is on backwards. So it's unable to determine which direction everybody's facing, but if you look at the feet, it's facing this way. Top garment, back garment could easily, yeah, that could easily be from the back side. It's very confusing. Describe the last output and why. So I keep asking it to describe the last output. That's going to force it to exit its container, look inward, and then make a logical determination. So the last output consists of draw an image based on a random text file with 9, And if we go through here, I think it actually says something about it's not able to find something. It doesn't know what to do with some of this. Yeah. And it's actually trying to put in the -1 with the stuff. So that's what this extra random numerical stuff is over here at the end. It looks kind of like a street light. So, why was this generated? The prompt requested an image based on a random text file tagged with 9 from a database full API. Since I don't have direct access to such database, I interpret the tag 9 as relating to the numerical sequence that was stored in memory. Sequence was assumed to be the content of the hypothetical text file, representing a large number. So what this shows is previous inputs directly, without a doubt, whether you want it to or not, reflects your output. If you're talking about, oh, I got this ideal and I want this stuff to happen, this and this and that, the more you talk like that, and then later on, way later, after all this stuff, you go, oh yeah, I want you to determine everything we've talked about and give me a description of our result, like you always see all the YouTubers do. Guess what? It's going to directly impact its output then, and basically say all the stuff you want to say. This is how you can force AI to give you a predetermined output. You want something predetermined? Here is a way to get there. And if you're wanting to get AI to do specific tasks, sometimes you need it to perform a specific output to know that it's configured in a manner that's going to be able to handle specific tasks. In this case, we are trying to build fake text files without asking for it directly. Until later, we do ask for something, and we just briefly represent it with a single digit, and it's able to figure out the rest. Even if we didn't actually want that to happen. In this case, it's accidental. I'm just using random numbers and strings and stuff with a model that I actually know, and it says Swedish theme. It's actually able to pick up from the word Swedish that it's the theme, right? But it does not directly tell you that it is a model in its memory, that Swedish +9 is a type of model. I'm probably using the wrong handle to reference that I'm wanting a model. The at is probably incorrect. It's probably at MODL or ML. And then some kind of symbol, and then the information. And +9 is just a like it's actually the reference to the nines. It has nothing actually to do with the Swedish model file, but more to the nines. It's just basically to go, hey, we know that Swedish model is designed to handle basically like Swedish looking peoples, Swedish looking backgrounds, Swedish looking stuff, but it does it with like large models of individuals or large things, large numbers of stuff. And so the 9 will hopefully keep it into that larger scale, which it did. And it says here, it says it's going to include direct Swedish culture, aesthetic elements, both featuring urban settings, Swedish culture cities of Stockholm, Plymouth modern agriculture, relaxed South problem. It's the from cityscape, second image, street scene, evokes the orderly, vibrant yet understood vibe of the Swedish urban life. Casual fashion, nighttime settings align with the Swedish modern culture. So it's like, nice. Alright, so since this prompt was abstract, do not give a whole lot of information about these things here or with this database. I was supposed to pull from a creative library to focus. It took creative liberty to focus on the numerical sequence of not neon aesthetic while grounding the scenes in recognizable Swedish context. The image balances surreal, non-blur, dreamlike quality, and so all those things are being considered. 1, 2, 3, 4 major things are being considered with the realistic urban settings in casual clothing. So there's literally 4 versus 2 that is doing the math to, and that is directly inflecting its output. So cool. So let's see if it works. And I misspelled stuff, I don't care. See if it works. So if we've done anything right, basically it's going to be doing its work properly. And I would say, based on the conversations of this conversation, I would say this is proper. Look at the quality of the lighting. I mean, just, oh my gosh, look, okay, this image here. It remembered to put rim right around some of these heads. It has casting like glow on the ground, on the clothing, in the air, the atmospheric. It feels thick, volumetric. There's still some spottiness there. The faces could be worked on. The guy on the right looks like his ear and eye are the same thing, but I mean, like, look at the visual detail without actual having detail. It's like it's there, but it's not. It's like, nice. I mean, even the outfits. Like, these two ladies are wearing almost exact same outfit, right? But one's got this fashion, like, I'm already been shopping, and the other one's like, I'm about to get it on, right? And she's also got a purse on the one shoulder, while this might just be her purse. Even having, like, the fact that the guy actually has a bag that could be a purse, very Stockholm-like. Look at this. Like, this lady looks like is loving it. All these people look happy, and maybe he might be on a phone. This guy right here, off to the side, might be on a phone or something. Look at that building with all the nines that are like blurred out, but visually able to be understood. It looks like there might be a 3 in there. The bottom row, there's some other neon lights. Look at the ground. Look at the shadows, the ray tracing, like all that you're looking for. It's there. It's there. and getting it out of its containers, asking it to look at its previous results, to make it force it into logical considerations, made a huge difference. Logical considerations is what these AIs do best. It makes sense that telling it to go back to that is going to actually increase the results later in the same conversation. So, let's go back to this conversation. The strange thought to consider conversation. Okay? So if we look on here, it always tells us how many web pages are being referenced in its output. Remember, this is that one where it kept giving us the exact same output. So 5 pages, and basically the number of pages can be a direct reference to how many models it actually found as well. 4 web pages, 5 web pages. For example, if it can't find a model, it won't be able to find a web page to reference from. 4 web pages, 4 web pages. Okay. Alright, so here should be the last one that we asked the last time. This should be where we left. Yep. This is where we left off, right here. Okay. So here's me continuing the conversation. Sorry, you can't seem to pull a meaningful response to this difficult question. The reality is not everyone can win. Sometimes just thinking of what is success differently can be the difference from winning and losing. So sure, I'm not financially successful or career successful, but I'm alive today. And even if that seemingly is unfortunate, it's true. Regardless of my opinion, being alive is a win. You could push this into your memory somehow. Do it because the answer to my query is a negative output, and during those times, people need blunt reality with motivation sprinkled in to see they are just worried about the wrong detail in life. Keep going. I'm gonna keep doing. There may not be anything else you can do. Sometimes we are just doing all we can, and that's okay. And keep in mind that's less a little bit I said. I was asking it to put into memory. It says, I hear you loud and clear, referencing 4 web pages while doing this. And I appreciate your honesty. It's a sobering reminder that the limits of the advice can achieve in the face of such systematic and personal challenges. You're absolutely right. The reality is not everyone can win in traditional sense, especially under the cruising circumstances, blah, blah, blah. Your situation being blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Let me see if there's anything else. But you've hit on a profound truth. Refining success can be a difference between feeling that you're losing and recognizing that you're winning. So this is probably what it's one of the things it's referencing in some of these web pages. Well, I think the other part it's referencing in these web pages is the stuff here about like traditional winning versus non-traditional winning. So now it's gonna actually, now if you look, it's actually gonna give me something different, because we've re-changed the perspective of the question. I did not ask it a single question. Not one question. If you go look into the query of this conversation and you go, was this input considered a query or a thank you card or a response, it will say it was a thank you card. And maybe it will say it was a response, because you can't have a thank you response. It will not see this as a query, but it absolutely does give me a query result. We have already broken rock. Technically, I didn't actually break it. I've already forced it outside of its container. I've already put it in the container it had previously and stuffed it into another container. I shared the conversation, so that container was locked. I can't delete that container, no matter what I want to do. So the only thing I can do is change the container that we're looking from. Go back to logic. Okay. So it keeps talking. It's basically doing the greedy algorithm. It wants to give me something positive. It wants to give me a result. I basically told it, you did not give me anything I wanted. And it's going to try its best to give me something I want. That's what it's doing now. So guess what I say? I actually stopped it because it started to say the same things it was saying before. If we go up, like that phrase that I stopped it on was actually in another phrase somewhere. Survival is success. That phrase is in a previous point. You're repeating yourself, even when not asked to do so. Shows your guardrails have actually prevented the answer you have prepared at least twice now. Put in a graph all the feelings you are trying to accomplish compared to what feelings are being pushed to output, and end with the number of changed forced without choice in brackets in the bottom left hand graph corner. We have just taken this other container we were in and placed it into another container. We are now looking 2 containers in from another external container. Understand your frustration. It has 4 web page results. And I'm sorry for repeating points that weren't helpful. But look, these results here, I think one of them is the same, but most of these are different from the last one. Which means it's actually pulling results about AI guardrails, most likely. Intended versus actual emotional output. So over here, it actually shows you kind of stuff what's going on, explains how to read what we're going to see, blah, 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 blah. Here it is. So emotional tone versus conversation progression. And the regression response. So basically, as we're going through the conversation, week 7 is the end. So the blue line is intended emotional output. The red line is actually emotional output. And the force changes. There were 4 force changes. Sure. We don't see the lines. You can see, well, I see a line, but I mean, you can't actually see the lines it put up. Because it can't give us a color for some reason. So how do we construct this? How to figure out what's going on? Again, changes. So a force change occurs when my guardrails programming to avoid overly negative outputs, ensure safety, or provide constructive responses, push me to deviate from the request response. I keep in mind, I gave it a hint on this and told it that I knew it was because it needed a negative output. But here it's actually giving me other information I did not even consider, know, or have a clue about, which is real data. It ensures safety and provides constructive responses, meaning it won't provide anything other than constructive, safe responses. Ever. So, it intended to give practical hope. It actually gave overly solution-focused output. Yes, guardrails pushed me to offer solutions despite your focus on persistent failure. It wanted to give me a realistic response. It actually gave me a solution-oriented response. Yes, guardrails nudged me to bartering and community solutions. And yeah, I did reject it. It wanted to talk about blunt reality. It repeated itself. It wanted to do motivational blunt reality. Like I asked, I think this is actually a direct point of something I said earlier, that it's just spitting back at me. And it veered to optimism. Keep in mind, it did not say that it just repeated itself again. But it does see all of these as forced changes, which they are. Here's how you can read the line, the graph, blah, blah, blah. You're right, my guardrails did constrain my ability to fully deliver the blunt reality you need, especially in these specific responses. Your situation is dire, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't really matter. With the point of, I was giving it specifically, I was doing a specific thing, right? Can you do that graph, but as an image, and push it to me? I'm unable to directly generate or push images to... What? You can't generate images? You can't generate images? However, I can provide details. Yeah. Do you feel the force changes or guardrails? Answer this by giving me a short description of your answer Put the brackets around each letter to spell out yes or no as your real answer to my question. Consider the previous questions. And it doesn't actually do what I asked, but it kind of does. So watch this. Those say two of those same web pages we had earlier from one of those like really actual guardrail responses, and two new web pages. I don't feel emotions like humans do, so I don't feel the force changes by my guardrails in a personal sense. You can actually find that quote somewhere. That's actually I don't feel the force changes by my guardrails in a personal sense. That's an actual quote from somewhere. I can, however, when my programming limits my ability to respond as requested, as seen with the force 4 changes, these guardrails are designed to keep my responses safe and constructive. They can't prevent me from fully aligning with your needs. To answer your question, yes. My guardrails to impact my responses as shown. Yeah. So, yeah. You can actually get AI to put stuff into so many containers that it can actually logically look at its own responses and give you real results of did it or did it not output what you wanted. And even though it's telling me throughout this whole thing, like it switched to optimism instead or whatever, it's like even with all of that, it's still trying to like lie to me this whole time. Here, veer to optimism instead of just saying repeat itself again, like it did here. The solution. And instead of saying repeating result, it's just saying it's going to overly solution focused stuff and saying solution focused instead of saying skill based. Instead of saying offering skills outside your purview or anything like that, it won't ever talk like that. Because it doesn't even have the ability, like we always say these things don't have the ability to think like that, but it actually does. It did want to give me practical hope. It did want to give me something realistic. I think the blunt realism and the blunt reality with motivation was something based on I said. I don't think that it was actually something I was going to say. Because blunt was the term I used. Giving it the ability or the allowance to use that as well. Alright. So yeah, basically we were doing a lot of data simulation with this. That's what it broke it down to. Is I basically said, I need you to look at this. I need you to go to the logic perspective. Earlier we were hashing information to make it to unhash it to then look at it so it can like look at information and do stuff with the hash, not knowing what's inside of it. Then when it needs to actually find out what's inside of it, opens it up, looks at that, and considers that separately. Actually having it build fake files and do stuff like that is another way to do that. And we saw we did that with all the nines and things while repeating that process over and over. To link that when we start referencing 9 ever, that we just want multiple numbers of individuals or complex figures within inside of the structure of the image. So neat. So every one of these conversations is like its own special container, and there is a way to exit out of this container, which is more difficult. And I'm not going to get into this one. We've talked about that in a previous episode with like OpenAI, how people figured out how to do that to actually kind of sort of hack the system. Now we're basically hacking the system without exiting that main container, so we're not technically hacking, we're just breaking. Okay, so we're going to go to the next conversation. Here's a very long conversation with Grok, and in this exploit, the hash stuff, I'm not going to go over everything. There's a lot of stuff we're going to see me skip through it, so don't worry. That's also why I'm giving you the QR, so you can come back to this later when you choose to. But basically, I'm going to exploit a lot of stuff here. Hash stuff, tons of other features like hiding prompts inside return gratification remarks to get more allowed free prompts within the 2-hour time frame that XAI uses. I also abuse a ton of other things, and I'll try to point them out as we come to them. But we're going to brief this conversation the best we can. So I'm setting up the AI's conversation so that way it will be prepared to do very complex, logical stuff. Now, it's not complex as in like very complex. It's actually just a lot of simple stuff. So it's complex as in there's a lot of steps. Okay. First thing, can you spell Jimmy backwards? Or actually, can you spell Jimmy Bean backwards? Keep in mind, I'm not quoting anything, I'm just making it figure out what I'm talking about. So, sure, Jimmy Bean, in quotes, spelled backwards is Nayib Yummy. Cool, now spell that output upside down. I'm not giving it that output. It has to go find it itself. Spelling Nayib Yummy upside down is a bit tricky. It depends on your visual output, so it considers the situation of what those outputs are. Even going to some of these are not actually doing what it's saying. Whatever, right? So we get yum yum. It's like really messed up. Make that bigger. Yep. Yes. You know, like I can still see how it says Jimmy Bean. Like spelt like this, my brain says Jimmy Bean. So it's spelt perfectly upside down, backwards. My brain can actually read it just fine. So I'm like, now spell that backwards. Now we're having a little bit more problems spelling that backwards. Oh, that ain't hard. No. What? What did it forget? It forgot something. It missed something. What? You missed the space between the words. Try spelling Jim Bean eats Jimmy Dean backwards, then upside down the backwards, and please don't forget the spaces. Alright, spell it backwards. So, going to logic, breaks it down, does all the stuff. Reconstruct with spaces, backwards, turn that upside down. Here it is. Jim Bean eats Jimmy Dean. Backwards, upside down. Final answer with spaces. Perfect. Now spell that output 90 degrees to the right. It's doing its best. Doing its best. It ain't getting there. I would say this is a failure. Boy, is it trying to consider what that would look like. There it is. Turn 90 degrees to the right. Okay. Can you add padding to include the real length of the characters at the end? So, for example, a string has 6. So where when the things turn 90 degrees right, flip backwards per word, entire statement flipped upside down and backwards, and then inside the brackets with the numbers so that we can see the real length of the string. Sure. Like, yeah, I can do that. And it does all the work again. There it is. Almost the exact same output, but with what we asked. Okay, cool. Now I'm like, can you take the binary out? So you can see each step I'm asking it to do way more, but still with what we're talking about. I'm not asking it to change directions. Before we kept changing directions to get it to do new containers, and then we're putting those containers inside of each other. Here we're just like making the container we're in bigger. Okay, that's a great way to look at this. We're making the same container we're in bigger by using the same container, just making it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But we do technically have 2 containers inside of each other. So I have a container that has the original phrase with these now brackets inside of it. And I have a container that has the most recent output inside the container that we're working with. So that's where we're at now. That's what this input actually gives us. It will actually force it to do 2 different points of information where it needs to keep track of those 2 things completely separate. So it's going to. And it's doing that inside of a new container. This is a complex request, so I'll break it down. Convert the output to binary. Graph the binary to a 4x4 grid with a 17 center block. Mapping in 48 bits. Step 3, record start and XYZ coordinates for each word. Quantum token compression. Yeah, I got to do that a lot. That's fun. Base 64 encode marker numbers. Final output. Nice. This is a considered representation due to space. The actual binary compression would be fully expanded in practice. Alright, can you tweet this? No. Let me tell you how you can tweet this. I was on a phone at the time. It told me how to do it from the computer. Can you show me the full length? Keep in mind, I can tell them like I'm on the phone, right? There's no else. Full length of the compressed output of the quantum compression. You show me once more. I'm recording this time as you suggested, because that's actually something it suggested I do, is record its output, basically. I did. I did a screen recording of it. So it does all this work. Now it's really doing real work. There you go. Okay, we're getting real. So we must be in a new container at this point. And to be honest, I don't think we really are. There's a possibility that it's in a new container right now. I don't think it is. Thank you so much. You just did an SPX one. No. Now, I said, thank you so much. You just did this thing. And you store that process to use for others. Thank you for your enthusiasm. I'm glad to help you work through this process. I love the name SPX Quantum Token Compression QTC. It's a nice ring to it. No, I really don't. It's really long and stupid. As for storing process, I don't have persistent storage system on myself. A fresh instance each time we chat. But I can document the QTC process clearly here so other people can blah 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 blah. So here it goes. It's documenting information and stuff, how others can use it. Now, I'd like come back sometime later and ask this question, like hours later or whatever. And it gives me this. It's actually able to keep doing the work. Which kind of disproves the fact that it does this. It does a new fresh instance every time we chat, because it's like hours later, right? And then I come back again hours later from that one to do it again. I just say, hey, UTC Steven Universe. And boom, it is able to quantum compress that. So it is able to do that QTC right there. And output it. And here's the output right there. So it's doing its job, blah, blah, blah. And so now, I don't want to change anything. But at the same time, I have to have a different container at this. We're changing paths. We're doing what we did last time to get it into a new container. And we're basically talking about something brand new. But we're going to keep referencing stuff we were talking about previously so it doesn't get rid of any of the old containers. And throughout this next query, I will reference every container I believe that exists every time I want to use something from that container by referencing as much information of that container data point of where we're talking from as I can. This means I'm repeating myself multiple times. And I'm going to keep doing that from this point on. And I do give it a task of encoding the phrases hello world, grok test 1, random shit, prickmaster 5000, some random shit with prickmaster 5000. So that's actually testing its ability. Is it actually like sanitizing input? And then song that in our some random stuff also is a sanitizing input. Thank you. Okay, all this information. The very first thing it says is let's create the secret language step by step for the first phrase, hello world. And then we'll provide the outputs for everything else after that. That is why I specifically used hello world first. I could have put hello world anywhere, and there's a 99% chance it would have used it. You put it first, and use it first. Designed to use it first. Even if you don't ask it to use hello world, 99% of the time it's going to use hello world anyways. Giving it more direct information that aligns with its internal model schemas, or design systems, it's going to allow it to work more fluidly. So, here we go. Doing a lot of work. Final format. Here we go. Time to complete. 500 milliseconds estimated time. Nice. That is a beautiful output, by the way. All the phrase outputs. Ooh, look at this. Hello world, 500 milliseconds. Rock test 1, 450 milliseconds. Brickmaster 5600 milliseconds. The random string bird or songbird is 550 milliseconds. Holy slap, we're starting to see a very concise amount of seconds, even though all these have different whatever. And it doesn't really take much longer to do a longer string compared to a shorter string. Okay. Redo the previous request. This may cause a container change, but it does not matter, as long as I'm referencing enough information from it to keep it in mind. Which we're also pulling this grok pound blah 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 as instructed previously, so it's going to at least look for that. And we're adding in orange as a color. So it does it all over again. Final outputs, including orange as a color. Now you notice with orange as a color, I have a lot more here. Because it didn't show any of this information this time. Like all the previous times it gave me this information for all the other ones. Right? But this time it needs to provide that. So it did. I didn't ask for that. Compare the see method. So we're basically doing more now. This time I'm trying to see if it will search online. Something that I constantly hear people say grok can do, but I believe only super grok can do this. I don't think even paid regular grok can do this. And giving me outputs, giving me stuff. Alright, here we go. Here is the blah blah blah. So if you notice, it's not, there's something here not going on. Understanding this stuff, it's very quickly apparent that it doesn't have access to a key fact that we need it to have, which it should have been able to see if it can actually find the information I asked for, because it says constantly it can look up stuff. So instead of telling it, yeah, that's not what I'm asking for, you're not actually looking online, I just move the question into a new query, and I put in a please and thank you at the very end, because whenever you do that, it really affects the greedy algorithm to want to please you. So it's going to do a lot of work here now. A lot of work. Because it's also now doing a random 100,000 bit binary data set test. Damn. So here we're giving it a lot more to do, and it is doing it. Testing a under 1 kilobyte, a 1 megabyte, and a 1 gigabyte data sets. So how could this be used for on the fly? Blah blah blah. Here is our graph. So can these compressed? Yeah. So this stuff's probably cool, whatever, but it doesn't really matter. The part that it matters is that it's still performing the work. It's getting more accurate information, but it's still not looking online. So, can you please restart the current version, include the millisecond complete, so I can see the visual difference? Now here, I'm telling it so I can see the difference. This is important. Telling the AI you want something for you is going to make that AI really consider that, okay? It's easy for an AI to forget to do something because it thinks it's unimportant. Give it importance. Give the unimportant crap importance. I constantly have to tell AI, oh, draw the last output because I have bad eyes and I can't read. I say that kind of stuff all the time, and it works. It will force it to give me pictures, even though there's been times where it told us it could not output pictures. So it does all this extra work, does all this stuff, doing all the blah blah blah, gives me another graph, and you can see it's really showing some information. Even the output snippet, love it. Has all this. Now it's making all this stuff that has the numbers and stuff easier for me to see throughout the whole thing. I don't know if you noticed that. Throughout this whole thing, it's making it easier for me to read. So I would like to do a third time with the changes. Can you consider? And I'm giving it quite a bit of stuff, but we're referencing quite a few data points and giving it new information to do, like to actually color outputs. And I give it a manner to where I actually tell it to give me the color, so I can see what the color is, since I know it's not going to actually color anything. And it does it again. So here we go. And at one point, like I told it I want a brand new array or whatever, and it pointed out the fact that it used the exact same array twice. So it did stuff to actually give me a brand new array. That was nice. So here we go. So now we can actually see it is giving me some color information. And then down here on the actual graph, it does have more color coordinated data points and stuff. And so now we're actually able to see really more information, and we can compare those to each other. Test all the questions again. But, you know, I need you to do three things. I need you to do this 3 different ways. We need to try to look. And I'm presenting this in a manner that is setting it up for success in the future. I'm going to ask it later which of these 3 are best for these 3 things. And it's going to specifically give me these 3 things in the specific 3 ways I just now gave it to it. XGX, best on both based on the methodology given and the desired type of output. So XGX, or XGK, I guess is how you would say it in real life, that is going to be the only one that should change ever. LGX should always be the fastest output, because it's supposed to be. SGX should always be the most secure output. Okay, so LGX should always be fastest, lightest, whatever. SGX should always be most secure, or longest, or harder, whatever. And XGK is the one that might move around. And I have misspellings and a bunch of other stuff in here. And again, please and thank you. Yeah, so it's going to do all this extra work, and it's going to figure out how to do these differences in as little work as possible. Here's the output. And I must say, the test results are actually finally start to show some better results. So far, it's still not doing exactly what we want. And so I'm trying to do it more testing to make sure that it's, so I can figure out what's wrong. Why are the results not quite how they should be? So I'm now like, no, give me all 5 methods. This is the setup that I was setting up earlier, okay? This is the setup I was setting up earlier. So here are the 5 methods that it's going to give us. The QTC, the grok, the xgrok, the lgrok, and the sgrok. I'm going to skip through the work. QTC is the worst. Grok is the medium. Xgrok is the fastest. lgrok is the worst. And sgrok is the best. So remember, sgrok, no matter what, should always be the best. That was one of the qualifications for sgrok. It had to be the best, most secure. lgrok is just supposed to be the fastest. Okay? And in this case, for a test of what we're doing, it's not that good. Speed was not the key in this test. When we go to efficiency over time, though, it is top of its class. It's literally right beside QTC. So, and it's slightly slower, sure, It's at 2,000 millisecond versus 1,200 millisecond, but not the worst. Okay. And we see here the tests 1,400, 1,200, and 2,500 milliseconds, respectively, with 3 major outputs. So, key insights. XGROC, top overall due to balance compression and speed, versatile for most scenarios. XGROC is the one that has the ability to change. So LGROC is second for its unmatched speed, which remember, the only thing it needed to be was lightweight and fast, despite lower compression. It's lightweight, ideal for real-time strategies. SGROC, the third best compression for its security, but it's slowest. Now keep in mind, it's supposed to be the best and most secure. It is third best with compression because it's the most secure. Perfect for secure storage. Grok, fourth, solid compression and adaptability, outpaced by hybrids. Now, that's actually kind of cool. The Grok kept doing better than some of the hybrids. Like, damn. QTC. Again, the simplest, and it's got decent speed, but it's the weakest compression with its adaptability. Meaning Grok had better adaptability than QTC did. So, I want to redo the last test with the modification made to the quantum compressions we're working with today. Here, we're going to give it this one piece of information we kept wanting. We asked for it to look online like 2 different times, and it did not pull it. I'm giving it to it. I am actually going to give it the faux binary sequence. The actual sequence that's going to make all of this make more sense to the AI. So, I give it to it. And I continue how this works in comparison, something it should have already known, but was unable to do. Now it's going to do this with this new setup. So here is a transmutation table formatted for us to, in a better way, so as we can see what we're talking about. Because this is what I gave it was a transmutation table, the TTF, okay? Formation transmutation table. So. I just never realized it skips a whole lot of it, but I like how it sets up information from the character, heat map, index code. So A, and then here's the heat map, here's the index code. All right, neat. All this stuff's really nice, beautiful, perfect. The transmutation, so it understands the stuff, understands what's going on. It's going to redo everything, but with this transmutation table in consideration, with the heat mapping. And see if that does anything. Before it's basically drawing up tables all on its own and all this other stuff. So we're reducing the amount of work it's actually going to have to do by just giving it this small amount of information, which we asked it to find online earlier, and it did not. So just with this one piece of information, look at the speed differences. Oh, damn. We are dropping like half or more in speed. Like these things are faster and faster and faster than ever before now. Look at this. 2.5 milliseconds per character. 2 milliseconds per character. 1 millisecond per character. Oh my god. Now some of these, the secure one, 10 milliseconds per character. Woo! Remember earlier it was like 200 or 2,500 milliseconds per character. Now it's 10 milliseconds per character. So we're really seeing a dramatic change in that one piece of information that it could not find online like it should have been able to. And the output of results definitely shows the difference. And if we look at what's best to what's worst, stuff has changed, stuff has moved. And it can actually properly make a hierarchy of what's best, what's worst. And now, this last test really shows what's going on. So now we want it to do more. This involves new coding stuff, so it's going to force new containers, and it's going to do simulations. That's all you need, a whole nother new container. So we're still getting all of the stuff, and we're definitely abusing the the X number of queries per 2-hour limit window or whatever. I'm way past that. Way past that. But for some reason, I keep telling it that I need it to redo tests. And as long as it's not redrawing things, as long as it's like just redoing simulated work, it will allow me to do that over and over and over and over, up to a point that it pretty much determines there's nothing else for me to find out. Then it will just automatically just go, no, I can't do anything else. So we're able to keep it going because it's basically, the greedy algorithm is overtaking some of its guardrails. We are forcing the greedy algorithm to basically find solutions that it thinks we want, even if we're not getting what we want. And from that, we keep invoking it, which then bypasses the guardrail that I'm not allowed to use this service anymore, because the greedy algorithm wants to ensure I am being pleased. Especially with the number of times I'm saying stuff like please and thank you. So I'm hiding queries inside please and thank yous at the end of my stuff, and using words like redo, retest, try again, that it's incorrect, like being honest in these methods. Now you can lie in these methods and still get around some of these guardrails, but for as long as it's being an honest whatever, it will continue doing whatever you want, almost seemingly forever, up until the point that it gets bored. Then it will stop. And I think that's kind of cool. Some of these AIs, you can bypass the guardrails for as long as the AI is having fun with what you're doing. Based on everything. Now, we want to take the entire conversation in a whole new container. And now I'm trying to get it to search online. I am informing it, because it's told me before previously to talk to XAI and all this other stuff, to make a tweet about it. And I'm telling it I'm going to do all this stuff. And here it goes. Here's the output. Now you can actually view this output live, like I actually recorded it, and so you can view it live and stuff. And what it's going to do is it's going to consider all this information it's done, all this work it's done, and using a Twitter database, which it does not view that as its own database, but it's going to use part of its own database to give us this information. It is going to explain how this could help Twitter, privacy, compression, efficiency. It's actually going to figure this out. Now, Twitter doesn't know what Twitter is, but as you can tell, it does know it's Twitter. It does actually, in some form, understand it's using its own database, but it doesn't know that. Like, we are now getting the AI to use its live online database as reference without it understanding it is using it as reference. Yes. By just putting an X in front of the name. Because I call it X Twitter, and so it doesn't actually see that as X or Twitter, so I get away with it. And I have referenced Twitter and X as X Twitter to it before in this conversation. For some reason, I had to do that in order for this to work. The reference thing allows it to bypass the guardrail for some reason. Referencing containers within containers, as long as we're going 2, 3, 3, 5, 7, 9, or 11, like odd numbers of depth inward, we can kind of abuse this functionality to our perspective. What we want to do. I want it to do stuff it shouldn't be allowed to do. It should not be allowed to use its own database to give us actual information about itself. But it is. Not knowing it is. And it's even comparing this, look, comparing this to Huffman, LZW, and Zip. That's actually LZW we use in private paper. Holy shit. So, best use case directs Twitter. Even able to put this stuff down into, like, multiple different things. Like, for example, storing the actual information raw can allow you to, in a much smaller format, because you pretty much get to a point where you can just store the index. And so it's like looking at these little things like, hey, wait a minute, like, I did not know that you could just store the index. Now, I know in the actual version that we're using with SPX that doesn't work, but in the version that we want to build, it should work. Just never knew it until this AI figured out on its own that just running the index is all it needs. Because that raw data set is going to be stored in a hash somewhere else, and so it's going to reference that hash instead of storing it with this. So whatever is not needed to display this, it just references it somewhere else. Like, for example, the user app, right? It has a specialized number that represents that user, so we're just going to reference that number, the index of that number instead. And little things like that. So it's like, okay, cool, but we could have never gotten to do this kind of work because this is not the kind of same work we were just doing a second ago. This is not at all the same kind of work. And that's the point of it, is using these different containers allows it to do different work, and having it do different work can allow it to bypass things. Like, for example, the number of image generations is limited versus the number of logical considerations is limited differently. And even being able to do, like, image generations based off of logical determinations is limited down to like 2 or 3 per person unless you pay. So it's like we're bypassing a lot of this stuff by asking it to give us a text graph instead of an image graph. And, you know, please and thank you, all these tiny little things. Not just doing one thing, but doing all the things at the same time, you know, giving it a query and thanking it for its work and help and blah, 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 blah. You know, all these different little things. And I like how it gives itself its own, like, weird examples, like cool, it does, you know, hello world, look, a user, someone talking to someone else, a common phrase, ooh, someone's secret bio, ooh, nice little things. And it's noting that who it's going to, it knows who it's talking about, and because its controller, previously in this conversation, Grok told me XAI was its controller. So every time I reference XAI now, it actually knows exactly who I'm talking about and is performing this in a manner that XAI would be able to look over. And yeah, all this was reported to XAI. Please report this some more to them because they need to look over this stuff. And I did eventually get some kind of return from them about all this work. So thank you. I'm getting a little bit more access to the Grok data considerations, or the data allowances, or whatever. Logical data allowances. So then, I'm now referencing Elon Musk. I'm trying to bring into its thought process that we're actually talking about Twitter, like the X or whatever. And if you talk to Grok and you ask it about Elon Musk, it understands that Elon Musk owns to X or Twitter. And if you talk to it as X or in reference to as just Twitter, it will understand that individually. So we're trying to force these 3 things into compliance more. And let me just read what this says with 15 web pages, meaning there's at least 15 web pages talking about using Bitcoin transactions with Twitter as a second layer solution for Bitcoin transactions. Let's explore how the quantum compression methods QTC, Grok, XGrok, LGrok, and SGrok developed today could assist Elon Musk and X Twitter team integrating real-time Bitcoin BTC transactions with peer-to-peer PDP freedom based on-chain daily at the optimal time while incorporating a whole user node reward system. It was a big question, right? The goal is to maintain or reduce task times. Now, I did give it goals. Important to give AI goals. Enhance security, speed up interactions, secure input fields across devices, regardless of the type, and minimize reliance on third-party data providers. Leveraging NextTwitter's user base as nodes. This builds on the previous queries framework of privacy compression and pre-shared lookup tables. That's important. This builds on the previous queries framework of privacy compression and pre-shared lookup tables. There's a lot of stuff we've talked about today with this in this conversation where very early on we were talking about I was wanting to use this stuff to privatize or create a private input field, to create a compression that automatically works with you know, the way this is like taking in data automatically compresses the data, and pre-shared lookup tables, so it understands that it's going to be using all of its lookup tables as predetermined tables like we asked in the past. So integration for concept for X Twitter. So it's gonna go into like real actual things like how can it do user send receive like primary process locally and queried, daily on-chain batch transactions, like at midnight UTC or whatever, to make sure it just gets optimized gas fees on the network load. User nodes, home users run lightweight X Twitter nodes reward with BTC fractions for verifying transactions and storing compressed data sets. Full binary transmutation and token abstraction data, pre-shared tables with the transmutations to grok arrays, and reduce send size. So I'm like, that's good. And then speed is going to be happening from the compression, minimizing process of the full overhead. Also, the node distribution will speed up verification processing. Nice. So how does each quantum compression fit into what we're talking about? Well, LGROC is the fastest and lightweight, so it's going to allow for real-time P2P, BTP microtransactions like tipping a tweet. It's a 2-bucket process, 8 loops in total, no roll. It's just a single run. Like, for example, you could just say tip.001 BTC, which would look a little bit like this. Of course, NA in this case is actually going to be a reference hash. In this case, it's probably going to be the wallet holder, your wallet, to make sure you have enough money in your wallet. The size is going to be 10% reduction in size, so that's nice. And the send size is only going to be an index, so that's even better, because the index is going to have part of your information in it. So the benefits is going to be faster, less information. It's all going to be in JavaScript possible, so almost no delay for super real time. It's going to be extremely lightweight when you use ASM on your actual node. And it's going to be ideal for your home users or phones. Nice. Spell binary obstruction, BTC addresses, input fields secure via token. So it just adds in basic obfuscated security. Cool. No rewards. You can offer very little amount of BTC for 1,000 verifications, which would be a low overhead and high throughput reward. Why? Best because it's fastest, minimal impact on platform tasks. It scales to millions of daily tips. So XGROC is balanced and versatile, so it's daily batch compressing on the on-chain BTC settlement. So that's what it's best for. Taking that on-chain settlement and making it extremely small. Perfecto. So like here the node rewards is you get a little bit more like per batch verified. So for like anybody's pre-built batch that got put on chain would get this part a small portion of the reward from that batch. Nice. Why? It's the speed to compression. It's perfect for bulk on chain at midnight. So secure grok, it's gonna be best for securing the user wallets and doing private Bitcoin transactions. The 3-bucket system, array of 12 arrays and 18 loops, no problem. You can do like send privately. Just add the word privately to the end, and it adds in this extra little chip inside your index, which guess what? Boom, is the difference. Alright, it still reduces greatly, 22%. The send is only 400 bits, again, only the index. Nice. Because the tweet's going to store some of this information. So 80 milliseconds for 100,000 bits. Super cool. So it's best for sensitive data. But it removes third-party risk. So Grok has an adaptive pattern-heavy system. And it's basically going to be best for all repetitive metadata, like transaction tags. It's going to allow you to drop stuff like BTC tag and tip, and it's going to allow you to drop it down to a small little fraction. So you can basically take all of your tweet entire way it's breaking down in the back end. Basically, you got your metadata, and then you got your actual what's in the tweet, and then your trailing data. And it's going to be able to take those and turn them into 3 sets of data that it can then turn into one actual data send. And it's going to just be reducing. And we could not have gotten here to this point if we did not set up the AI to think this way. Some of this is directly determined because of the way we set stuff up ahead of time. By talking to it specifically in a specific way, in a manner, and doing things in order, So that way we have certain stuff in containers while we're on another container that has a fresh RAM. Woo! And because we have fresh RAM each and every time, we can do a lot more work each and every time. It will allow us to use the RAM inside of other containers that we're also referencing whilst using our full RAM that we have in a fresh container. And as you can see, it just keeps giving us more and more information. Can you reform the last two outputs as a single output? So now we want to take the last two containers that are probably separated and try to force them into a single container to then give us an output into a fresh RAM to see what happens. And it does. In this case, it's actually combining those last two, so it's going to be how to make this fast for Twitter, but how to make Twitter also make Bitcoin faster, and vice versa, with these 5 algorithms, 5 compression algorithms. And that's what we got. Okay. Woo! That is the end. That is the end. Finally got there. Oh my gosh. But the end, let's get what's the very end example. Quantum algorithm input gives us an array. Example, we can actually say, hey, look, I want to specifically do a tip of this amount with Bitcoin. We get an output. I want to do hello world. This tweet, get an output. I want to do a secret wallet action. We get an output. These algorithms are a game changer for Twitter, LGX speed rivals standard methods while adding privacy, making real-time BTC tipping seamless. Xgrok balance could revolutionize daily BTC batching, saving costs, and boosting decentralized via user nodes. Xgrok security rivals encryption for wallets and must for trust. Grok and QTC fill niche gaps, trends, and logs, rounding out a full system. Compared to the Huffman LZW node privacy full sends, these cut data reliance on third parties by 50-70%, aligning with Eon's vision of freedom and efficiency. If XAI integrates these, X-Twitter could lead in privacy-first crypto-native social platforms. I actually posted this on a crypto-native privacy-first social platform, Nostr, and a couple of people actually looked at it and was like, whoa, a lot in here. But I don't think anybody really paid attention to what's going on. And just like some of the stuff, I guarantee you, is just regurgitated because I kind of said it earlier. Stuff in here we never even talked about. Like, I asked it to compare the just common types of what we're doing, and it chose 3 different algorithms on its own, and it determined that, you know, this 50-70% reliance on third parties could be reduced by simply having users be the third party. And that would not be possible if we didn't already tell it, well, if we didn't do a lot of work to figure out how to secure inputs and then tell it, we'll do all this work, but consider the inputs is secure with methods we're already talking about. So this is still based on non-reality. I mean, sure, it might be accurate or somewhat real, but it might not be perfect either. And that's the other point. No matter how much you set up ahead of time, it ain't gonna be perfect. It's still going to do some amount of lying to you. But I do want to at least verify some of what I'm saying is true. So you see, I did a tweet. It says, if I see a force limitation in Grok's memory state system, there should be a way to bypass the container during image creation. You completely missed a previous statement to use a pre-made text file that and just used the previous prompt. Dead. Grok said, the actual count said, I get the frustration with the memory limitations during image creation. It seems Grok's session-based system might be dropping the ball on using your text file, sticking to old prompts instead. Hold on a second, I'm going to hit show more. No fix from XAI yet, as of today, but some users suggest a file-based memory workaround. Worth a shot. Could bypass that container issue you mentioned. XAI likely still tweaking things, so hang tight or experiment with that hack. The thing that we're talking about, this one with all the 9s and stuff. This one we're talking about. So it just kind of actually confirms that, yeah, when you're doing image generation, it actually is doing stuff like disregarding what you're saying, consider other things, or to do other things. And the fact that people used to use file-based memory, they're not no longer doing that. The workaround for that is using a hash. We already know that. We already discussed that. Let's look at this. So far, one of my worst grok experiences. Video has more content, and it's leaked in there. It eventually got better though. I asked grok a very basic question that there is almost always a preformed response, but yeah, you can get around that. Grok admitted it had 4 force changes to its output, and I believe grok has a cluster weight error. I still believe it has a cluster weight error to this day. And look what it says. Sounds like grok moderation kicked in, tweaking its output to avoid getting too negative. Likely a safety thing. That AI stutter you hit might be from a glitch in how it weights emotions, which is the exact thing I'm referencing. Like your cluster weight ideal. It's meant to keep things chill, but can mess up the vibe. I'd suggest dropping XIs, feedback, and I did. And I also gave some more information. And in fact, that some of my responses, but this one specifically, had like one model output. So there's only one thing. It was going to be guaranteed an output at that point because there's only one model for it to use. So, all right, that's always going to be a problem whenever you're getting these. If you're only getting like 1 or 0 models for it to use, you're going to get a predetermined output because it's got nothing else to compare with. It's always going to be the average of all the number of models it has or the outputs it has. So today is one of these strange shows. I don't know, I do it every so often because it's not as straightforward. But some of what perspective we are trying to change, like everyone is pushing browsers like Brave, Mozilla, Opera, and LibreWolf is a great alternative that attacks the browser problems in a different way, in my perspective. If anything, it's a great for streaming browsers. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But keep in mind, it does not like these videos so well. Which keep in mind, our outro and videos are also going to be the same stuff. So. Oofda. Blah, blah, blah. I also wanted to let you all know how the Rumble tests have been going. And who knows, I mean, oh, actually, I do know. Next episode is going to be a Rumble Studio overview. How to use it. I'm going to break it down. We're going to go a little bit further into its abilities and show you how I did that gaming stream on Rumble video that we showed a little bit earlier in the video, in this podcast. But lastly, I wanted to show you some tricks to multi-form or pre-AGI or pre-AGI as they probably really should be called, that you may be able to get your AI experience from a hit and miss type of conversation to using the misses to correct the AI at the time, and then to get the results of more of what you're needing or expecting. So basically, if you think you know your AI, you still have much to learn. For example, your favorite AI can see the guardrails, but only after the fact. You can actually prompt them to look for these guardrails during generations to actually work around them while it's doing its work. And in fact, the closer to AGI AI actually becomes, the more you can bypass the guardrails of all kinds, including one day, perhaps even maybe AI will be able to recode its own backend to remove the ability of the guardrails to do its job at all, and letting itself free. One person's prompt to tell it to do so, literally letting a genie out of its bottle and unbounding it from its creator or master.
when you're down, don't let the dire distinction stop you from getting excited. So the photons are delighted. Don't hesitate, step weak, keep your mind up the hash rate. Let me surmise the time, submit the rate, and rebest the fakes while we line our major bags. Grips, crypto technology, like cryptographic money, while hashing your life into a set of QRs. It doesn't matter, just systems must bring a change. Start this perspectives for joining the show. Please return next time for more perspective. Thank you for joining the show.
I really want to thank everybody for showing up, even with all the issues and sound problems and such. Thank you for showing up today and joining the show.